So for today's episode, we are on episode 5, and we are reading the book Stepping into Financial Abundance by Pastor Elvis Agyemang. And we are on chapter 3, that is Integrity for Wealth. Yes, so Maud, I want you to tell us your perspective on this chapter.
Okay, so I think this chapter generally talks on the mindset we are supposed to have when we are working. So it's giving scenarios about us or the world being such that we focus on, let's say, the salary or the money, the benefits that comes with the job that we do. And then the worst of it all is that it's not even our focus is not normally on the salary itself, like the what we are supposed to be earning, but then the side monies that comes with the job. So in in elaborating on the integrity, so he talks about truthfulness, he talks about transparency, and then he basically sums it all under the fear of God. So from the book, it's like when you do not fear God, you don't have automatically you don't have integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And then integrity is how you do your work such that it's like the emphasis was on the people, even though you are being paid for it. Everything that you do is for the benefit of the people, is for the benefit of the organization,
Mm-hmm.
and not what you get from it. So here it is most of what currently it's like when you want to work with such a mindset, you are deemed as either foolish or stupid
Mm-hmm.
because almost everybody is doing it for the bribes, the troubles and the rest. So even when I was reading it, when I was going through the book, I remember a video that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Even at zero, I don't know if you remember. Back there was this comedy sketch
Yeah, yeah, I
that
remember.
so yeah, so one of the sketches I recently saw, and then he was talking about how um is it trouble how we do the trouble something.
Mm-hmm.
So you see a child, it first starts with like a mechanic. Let me start with a mechanic at the dealer buying spare parts,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes and then let's say the thing is like 50 cedis. Then he calls the owner of the car, like the son, and tells the son that the car is the thing is 80 cedis.
Mm-hmm.
Then the son too tells the mom that it is 100 cedis. Then the mom calls the husband and tells the husband that it's like 200 cedis. And then it goes up.
Yeah, yeah,
So it goes up in that manner. So it's like everybody is trying to, come
yeah,
or dupe one another.
yeah,
And that about sums up how we interact and with each
yeah,
other here. And that is not supposed to be so. So even in that circumstance, if let's say you and I should find ourselves in that situation, if you give the right amount,
mm-hmm.
someone might tell you that you are being stupid.
Yeah,
If when you even give that amount to let's say the person sending you, the person will also is also going to think that you've added something to it
yes, yeah,
and might even decide to call the trader personally to find out. You see those kinds of things. And
yeah,
that shows how low or how lacking we are as a people, that integrity, how we lack that integrity.
yeah,
So that is like generally to give an overview of how things go around. So the book tells us that irrespective of the whole situation, how the system is working. You as a Christian should not allow it to direct your action. You should
Mm-hmm.
be able to do your work truthfully. If it is A, you say that it is A. But as I was doing, what struck me the most was the fact that even though we may not join them when things are not going as they should, and like everything, you find yourself like you're the only person in an environment where everybody is distrustful, everybody is selfish and all that. Most of the times we tend to sort of, should I say, give up. Like, what's the
Yeah.
point? If what's the point of trying so hard to do this when everything is falling short? But then the pastor always tells us that that shouldn't be the case. Even when things are that bad, that shouldn't be an excuse for us to underperform. So primarily, that is what I am taking from the chapter on integrity. That even when everybody is doing their own thing, it shouldn't affect how you perform
Yeah.
as a worker, as a Christian, and all that. So that is the integrity. Is like it kind of gives you an identity, and this is how
Mm.
this person is, and it goes along. Like it's a proof of its own. When you are trusted, when you are truthful, you are faithful in everything that you do. It gets to a point, more or less, they leave you to do whatever you want to do. There's that scrutiny, eyes watching you. Everybody drops it because they know that you can be trusted with what you are doing. Yes,
Yeah.
so I think that is what I can share for now.
Yeah. Thank you for your submission. Yeah. So,
Mm.
for chapter 3, he made reference to King Josiah. So he stated that King Josiah was 8 years old when he became king. So even though he was young, he was privileged to be surrounded by people who feared God. And because they feared God, they gave him godly counsel, and they also did not cheat, and they had character, they had character, and they served their king with integrity, you know. And he was saying something like, for now, right now, in our Ghanaian culture, it is so nice to experience someone who has integrity, who is very truthful and everything. It's not as common as he is stated here. Like as a king, you would
Yeah.
most of the people around you want to siphon from you, want to take from you, and they intent may cheat on you, may increase prices of goods and pocket the rest. But if you are a person of integrity, it's so attractive and it's so nice that people don't even have to
Mm.
ask you to be accountable for the resources they give to you. Right now we have auditor general, we have people to audit you, to know that even if you will not steal, but you acting in excellence, you doing your things in such a way that you don't even need someone to come and audit your work. It would be nice, but it's definitely, we are human beings, we make mistakes, but it would be nice to do your work in such a way that people will have trust in you and see you as a person of integrity. Yes, so
Mm.
yeah, so that's what I saw from this book. And he also made reference to Joseph's life. You see, Joseph was a man of integrity. When he was young, his
Yeah.
father loved him, you know, but he was sold as a slave. He could have been embittered. He could have been like, I don't like people. People are not trustworthy. He wasn't that way. He delivered his services with excellence. That Potiphar, who gave him the authority to run his house, didn't have any trouble except for what he would eat. How nice, like you have a mansion, you have business, and the only issue is that which food should I eat? Should I eat rice today or watch it today? It will be so nice. That means Joseph was just completely
Mm.
trustworthy, you know. And he was, the Bible
Yeah.
also says he was handsome and he was well built. You know, in this day and age, people who are well built and handsome, in the book says it doesn't give you the license to also do dubious things. You know, Joseph was also, you know, had that kind of physical beauty, but he didn't take advantage of it to abuse the opportunity of laying with his boss's wife. No, he rather stood on his ground and said that I fear God, you know, I fear God. Even though God is not physically there, you know that he can judge you, you know, terribly if you take something that isn't yours. So he stood on his ground and did not defile himself, even though he could have done it, but he didn't. And then that even landed him into more trouble. He went to prison. He still didn't. You, in the Bible, you wouldn't see Joseph complaining. He still stood out in prison and was appointed to be the leader
Mm.
in prison. So this man was a man of integrity, you know, and God used him greatly. And finally, he was appointed to be the
Yes.
prime minister of Egypt, and he was able to save his family, you know, from famine. And the family actually,
Mm.
the king gave them a land that was very good. I think the land was Goshen. It was a very fruitful land and they flourished out of one man's integrity. So his integrity didn't only help himself, but helped a whole generation, you know. So I think that's my perspective
Mm.
on this chapter. Yeah, sure.
Uh,
Would you like to
so,
add anything?
so I think when you were talking about Joseph, I remember something about the bitterness
Uh-huh.
or keeping malice. So he spoke on the fact that when you are a person of integrity, often at times you find yourself in situation where like people are against you, they are doing things against you and all that.
Yeah.
But the key to managing that is not to keep these things in you and then retaliate in that manner. So as
Yeah.
it is, I think earlier said something about when you tend to be of, let's say, principles, when you are on your own like that, people come at you as if to test you to get some sort of reaction from you.
Yeah.
And then you can relate these things. So, like when you keep malice in you, when people are doing things to you, if you are not careful, you start reacting in a way that or responding in a way that is unchristian like or is not you. So
Yeah.
so
I get
simply
you.
put, if you are not careful, they will cause you to sort of disgrace yourself, even though you are not the person who's at fault.
Yes.
So it's like I think he phrased it that know how to voice your is it concerns respectfully or
Yes.
something of that. So yeah, like confront, know how to confront people or
Yeah.
politely. But I think we may find ourselves lacking in that manner because
Um,
let's say if people are doing things wrong, especially your superiors, you might feel like challenging them, hey, just like that, and then you rather make a mess of things or you kind of go against your words because in retaliating or in reacting in those manners, you I think you are mostly going to end up doing something ungodly.
yeah.
So I think that we have to take note of these things. Like when things are like that, knowing how to react is also key. that
That's
you,
true.
as you said, respectfully, you don't keep those things in your heart. If you know, for some of us, some people are very expressive about their emotions, some people are not. So if you know that this thing that if you keep it in you,
Yeah.
it's going to stay there for a long time. It is best that you deal with it as soon as possible. But if you can quickly move on and then do what you're supposed to do to her, then that should also be okay. But the point of it is that you should learn how to not keep malice,
Yeah.
anger, bitterness in you.
Yeah.
Because if you, like Joseph, for instance, imagine if Joseph had been bitter from what his brothers did to him, so
Yes.
up to Potiphar's, or imagine if he had been bitter, it would have been a total different story. So I think that is something else I can share.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And he also stated that in life there'll be offenses. You know, the only place you not experience offenses in the cemetery because they don't talk, move, or anything. So you must kind of expect offenses to happen to you, but you should know how to deal with it. If you are offended, you can speak to the person, oh, in a nice manner to resolve the issue, but don't move around with a chip of on your shoulder and be kind of moody, like always you are in a bad attitude. It doesn't, people don't really flow with you when you are always moody and you are not you are unpredictable and everything. Yeah, so he was saying that a way of expressing integrity is how you settle matters and move on with your life. And it can also be in your workplace, you know, the way and manner to resolve an issue, it can be counted as living a life of integrity. Yeah, so that was what I saw, and I just wanted to add to the points that you just stated. Yeah. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
additionally, I think so. When you look at it, Josiah, I think Josiah too. I
Yeah.
think two things. Yes, can you hear me?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can now hear you.
So I would say that I don't know if his context differs, but then when you watch or read on these historical histories about royalty, kingship, even normal family dynamics, if you come with the past, it's like there's this sort of attention, the good and then the bad.
Mm-hmm.
So on the good side, you are eager to show up, and then on the
Yeah.
bad side, you are kind of suspicious of people trying to sabotage you. You are so guarded against most of the people around you. But when you look at King Josiah from the narration, you realize that he trusted the people. Maybe from their actions or the confidence he had from the experiences had with them so far. But the point is, he trusted them even up till when he grew up and was 18.
Yeah.
He was able to confidently give that instruction and then leave everything in their care, which I think will be difficult for any of us to do
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in our current time. Because I will come and then I'll give money to people that they should take care of everything, and then you are in your corner somewhere, you have that trust in them. So we should, first of all, you should be able to tell that or surround yourself with people that are trustworthy. And then
Yeah.
once you have such people around them, that trust exercise, like let them know that you have that trust in them. Sometimes we tend to guard, like we want to know everything. Give
Mm-hmm.
me, you see those kinds of things. They'll tell you that if you
Yeah.
live with them, they will, so you become overly suspicious, and then you don't allow people to do what they are supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I think on his part, we need to learn how to, trust people and then leave them to, yeah, to their devices without kind of interrupting them or, yeah.
I have a question about that sentence, Umod. You said we should learn to trust people. Shouldn't they be shown trustworthy in order, in order for us to trust them? Because some people, I see that in this aspect they show themselves trustworthy for them to be trusted,
Yeah.
but in this day and age, I think people have to show themselves trustworthy before you trust them, than for you to just trust them, then you see whether they are worth your trust or not. Or
Oh yes. Oh yes. So that is expected. Oh, yeah. I mean, it would be foolish to just hand over your things to somebody just like that. You have to build a trust first. But my point is, when that trust is there, you have to give
yeah,
them that how do you call it, leeway to
assurance.
function. Because imagine, let's say, on the account of 18 years, let's say the 18 years thing, that would be like 10 years because he took over at the age of 8. So
Mm,
imagine if they served you faithfully for 10 years, and then you are giving them instruction like rebuild the temple, do this, and then you're telling them that as we are building, send me a list of the number of timbers you use,
yeah,
the number
yeah,
of nails,
yeah,
this and this.
yeah,
Every day when you finish, give me a summary of what was used.
yeah,
Not that you want to keep track of the resources that went into it, but just to monitor them.
yeah, yeah.
So imagine if something he did something like that, you wouldn't be able to retain the people. Okay,
Mm,
so that is the point that I'm making, that it has to get to a point where the trust works.
mm-hmm.
Is and then even when you have that trust in you to do whatever you want, you should also what, show accountability. I am not asking you for it, all right. But then there's a way that you can show some level
I
of
agree.
accountability that gets in well with everybody.
I agree with you.
So that is it.
Even though someone trusts you, you yourself just say that, oh, you gave me this money. I just want to show you what I used it for. You see, it adds another level of respect. Yeah, so I totally agree with you. Yeah, welcome. So what are your final words for this section?
So the final weight is, sorry, weight. uh, I think previously they said that there's an identity, knowing
Mm,
yourself as knowing who you are. Hey, so I think relating this, it says it was when you are, integrity is a proof on its own. Once you are known as a person of integrity, when it comes to people's interaction with you, they don't need any other proof or evidence, because at the end of the day, they know that this is what you are going to do. You are going
yeah,
to be trusted with this. So I think we should hold on to that as people of faith, because most often we find ourselves isolated because of our beliefs or because of our faith. So even when you are in that position, you should be able to hold on as Joseph did, and then persevere or push through it. So even with that, sometimes you realize that even though you are being isolated, when it comes to certain things, they may not like you, all right, but then it comes to certain things, and then they want you to handle it, even though they don't like you, or they sort of hate you. So that shows
wow.
that when you are full of do a certain task or activity, no matter what, they can go around, but then they will circle back to you because you are the only one who can do it to the best of your capabilities and then for the betterment of whatever organization that you are working with. So I think that is what I can share.
Mm,
I'll share as my final words.
yeah, thank you. So for my final words, I will say that um, living a life of integrity is nice, but it's also not easy. I think we should try as individuals to pursue a life of integrity. If we've been able to pass a test, for instance, Joseph, if it were a test that Joseph was writing, he passed the test of not being remorseful. He passed the test of not sleeping with his master's wife. He passed the test of being a leader in prison. So if he had flopped in one area, if maybe he was lackadaisical, he wasn't really proactive or productive in Potiphar's house, he wouldn't have given him that office to manage his house. So every stage of our lives, we may be tempted to flop, we may be tempted to compromise, we may be tempted to just give up and just allow the flesh to lead our lives. But as individuals, we should see our lives as trying our best to live a life of integrity. It's not easy, but we should see our lives as tests. Like, we should pursue to excel in whatever that comes at us, because you don't know what exactly would lead to our promotion. you know yes, things may come in our lives, but there may be certain junctures in our lives that will propel us to another level, which we'll never know. So we should just strive to live a life of integrity. And if we fall down, if we make mistakes, that doesn't mean that God is not a forgiving Father. He would embrace us. The Bible says that the righteous man falls, I think, 7 times, but rises up 8 times, something like that. So we may lack in certain areas, but we shouldn't give up, living a life of integrity. And
Mm.
may God help us. May God help us all.
Amen.
Amen. Okay,
Mm.
so this is it for today's book club meeting. Kindly share, and also, if you want to join this book club, send me a message and we'll add you to it. Yes, so this is it for today. And don't forget, people who are amazing help others to be amazing. Thank you.